Funded today. Why do we say that we're the most successful crowdfunding agency in the world? Well, as the introduction stated, we've raised over $31 million on Kickstarter and Indiegogo for over 200 campaigns now. Last month alone, we raised $6 million. So, anybody heard, and in the next 12 months, we're on track to raise $90 million based upon our growth and a lot of the analytics that we're showing. Who's heard of Kickstarter and crowdfunding? Okay, perfect. I figured that was going to be the audience. So, but for those of you that don't know, very quickly, Kickstarter is a place where you can bring your idea. In this case, Perch, which is a client we're working with right now, they invented a standing laptop desk, and they've just got a couple prototypes of it, and they want to create thousands of them. And so what they've done is they put their project on Kickstarter, and Kickstarter is a rewards-based crowdfunding platform where people will give money to back an idea in the hopes that that idea eventually gets brought to market, and the money that they gave gets them the product that they're backing, in this case, Perch. And that's how Kickstarter works. That's what I focus on specifically. So there's a lot of forms of crowdfunding. Equity crowdfunding, something that's talked about a lot. You've got a lot of charitable crowdfunding, GoFundMe, things like that. What I focus on specifically is rewards-based crowdfunding. Crowdfunding where you have an idea for a product, an app, a concept, clothing. In fact, most of the clothes I'm wearing tonight are from projects that we funded on Kickstarter. So, who in here has a business idea? Who's done something with that business idea? Anybody yet trying? Okay. Who would like to make $100,000 in 30 days with that business idea? Okay? Crowdfunding is the answer to doing that. And I've done that time and time again with Perch, the one I showed you right there. You saw it at $106,000. Actually made that in 26 hours. So you can make money really, really quickly if you follow what I'm going to teach you tonight. Now you kind of understand a little bit about the success of Funded today, but I want to tell you just very quickly before I get into the principles I believe that anybody can use to raise a lot of money on crowdfunding. I want to tell you about how the company started. So I've been a serial entrepreneur my entire life. I've, like the introduction said, I've never really had a real job, but I kind of had it in the back of my head that I should get an education. You know, it's a fallback. You can have a job after. It's a great thing. And I found my education at Weber State was really valuable because I had to work really hard to get good grades, but then I had to split my time starting all these businesses and managing all these businesses and things. Well, I graduated with a degree in accounting, and at that point in time, one of my companies was doing so well, it didn't make sense for me to go into the job market and try to become an accountant or go on to law school like I originally planned. And my company, which was Agile Holding Group, had a website called startdoingbusiness.com, and I attracted lots of clients, and I kind of built like a lawyer, an attorney, or an accountant, where I had an hourly rate, and clients would pay me for that. Well, after years of doing this, one client said, Zach, we can't afford your hourly rate. We've got this thing called Kickstarter. Have you ever heard of Kickstarter? At the time, I actually had never heard of Kickstarter. I wasn't in the know in crowdfunding. And they said, how about we put this idea on Kickstarter, which happened to be the Roosport 2.0. How many of you have heard of that one? Anybody heard of Roosport? Okay. Yeah, it's gotten pretty popular. It's a multi-million-dollar company now, so believe it or not. Well, they said, let's put this project on Kickstarter. Let's see what happens. And we'll give you a percentage of all the money you raise. And I said, all right. Let's try it out and see what happens. A couple weeks in, we raised about $50,000 for this company. And at that point, I kind of stalled. Anybody ran a Kickstarter campaign before? Nobody, huh? Okay. Sometimes when you run a Kickstarter campaign, in fact, almost every single time, if you don't sustain the marketing, you have a trough. You have a period where you might have even done well to start, but now you're raising no money. Well, what do you do in that situation? I reached out to my business partner, Thomas Albert, and Thomas Albert was working with some political clients. In fact, he's working with Ben Carson and Senator Cruz right now for their Republican nomination for president. And he was really good at paid media side of things. And I said, Thomas, we're kind of stuck here. We've raised $50,000. We've got a couple weeks left. What should we do? And he said, well, bring me on. Let's see what happens. I bring him on. He works some of his magic. And together, we raised $115,000 in the remaining time. I thought nothing of it, actually, though. I thought, oh, this is pretty great. We got a percentage of money. The client's way happy because we charge nothing. This is awesome. But I continued on my way. I continued doing my consulting practice. And because of the success of that campaign, we attracted quite a few people. One of these people was an ear, nose, and throat doctor out of Orlando, Florida. And he had a campaign called Freewaves. You can look all these up on Kickstarter, by the way. He was right here. And Kickstarter has all or nothing funding. So you can see this green line going across here. That green line was his goal. If he didn't get to $300,000, he was going to get no money. He calls us up with 100 hours left on his campaign. Thomas, who isn't here tonight, he says, let's go for it. I think we can do this. And we might have had to spend $50,000, $70,000 of our own money. If we don't fund, we're out $50,000, $70,000. If we do fund, the reward's pretty great. And obviously, you can see the graph here, so you know what happened. Thomas took the plunge. He said, let's do it. He spent a lot of money in a very short amount of time, generated some press, and we funded them to $325,000 with just 100 hours remaining on their campaign. At that point, I said, all right, I'm sold. Open up all my lines of credit, open up all my savings, and said, let's turn this into a company. And Funded Today was born. Ever since then, the results have kind of spoken for themselves. This is the drop I was telling you about. This is a company called Magbell. They've done all this on their own. Then they started going really slow. 300 bucks, 190, 144 bucks. They even had one day where they raised hardly any money. They hired Funded Today, and you can see that spike at the end. That's a trademark of what Funded Today does. Well, how do you get the spike at the end? Who's seen the travel jacket on Kickstarter? Follow the travel jacket. It's now the 4th most funded campaign in Kickstarter history. Funded Today, behind it. So, exciting, right? To me, it's very exciting. But how can you, all of you raised your hand and said you had a business idea, or some of you who are maybe just sitting here thinking about, man, what could I create? What could I invent? What can you do so that you can raise this kind of money and live the life of your dreams? We created this little crowdfunding success matrix and kind of named it like this. And I just wanted to quickly touch on this before I get into the 10 principles. But basically, you can have a bad product and some good marketing. And that's a black hole. You can spend as much money as you want, but the product's no good, and so you're just wasting money. You can have a bad product and bad marketing, and that's outer darkness. You're completely wasting your money there. You can have a good product, bad marketing, and you'll make a little money, but then you'll have that dead period that we saw in some of those examples, right? The trough. Or you can have a good product and good marketing, and you can have that sustained growth like we did with Bobek's travel jacket and raise nearly $10 million. How do you have a good product? This is our formula. If you wanted to take anything away from this presentation tonight, I think just knowing this is going to take you light years ahead. Ubiquity. Anybody know what ubiquity means? It's kind of a weird word. It means everywhere. It means omniscient. Is the idea you have everywhere? And I'll show some examples of what we're talking about here. Does everybody have it? Is it niche enough, but not too niche? Everybody knows what niche means? Okay. Is it techie? So you've got this ubiquity now, but have you added tech to it? Pebble Time. Anybody remember Pebble Time on Kickstarter? It was just a watch, but they kind of did what Apple did with their watch. They took a watch and they made it techie. Got to have an awesome product, and then you got to have a great story angle. And then I didn't say you're immediately going to make tons of money. It's just that chance of success. But if you get all these right, that's where you have the biggest chance of success. So let's talk about it. Have a great product. Here's some examples of some great products that you probably have seen if you're following Kickstarter that had all those elements I just described. Pebble Time, top one, it's a smartwatch. Everybody wears watches, or at least they used to. So what do? They made the watch cool. Paper airplane, but it's a remote-controlled paper airplane. Ubiquity. Everybody knows what a paper airplane is, but now they've made it techie and cool. Trunkster. That's our campaign, actually. We raised $1.4 million for them. It's a luggage, but it does all kinds of cool things. GPS. It charges while you will. Different ports and different things. It goes up and down special. And Cool is Cooler, probably one of the most famous Kickstarter campaigns of all time. It's a cooler that you can blend drinks in, that you can plug in your devices to, that has straps to carry things, that has big wheels that pulls along in the sand. You see how all those kind of fit that theme? Number 2, know thy margins. You wouldn't believe how many people I run into every single day, because we get thousands of submissions per month. And they come to us and they say, hey, I've got this great idea for this product. It cost me like 80 bucks to make it, and I'm thinking of selling it for 100. Or sometimes they don't even know it costs them 80 bucks to make it. They're like, I'm thinking of selling it for 100. Does that sound like a good price? The first question I asked was, well, what does it cost you to make it? If you don't know your margins, you can't spend on marketing. If you can't spend on marketing, you can't raise a lot of money. 2 examples of a company that's done this really well. This is our client, Basics. They're a group of people out of Orem, Utah. It costs them about 10% to manufacture that wallet and about 13% to manufacture their notebook. So look how good quality they look too. Extremely good looking quality. It's like Evernote good in terms of that notebook. and yet look at how cheaply they're able to get it produced. Very important you can do that. Let's show you why. This one might be a little hard to read, but the top is an example of margins, assuming that you have 35% marketing costs, meaning that you're going to spend 35% to acquire a new customer. In this case, their cost of goods sold is $80, meaning all the stuff it takes them to get this product sent over to an end consumer is $80. But guess what they're selling it for? $100. Projection of units without marketing, 1,000. These are just hypothetical numbers. 1,650 in projection with 5,000. They're losing $170,000 if they decide to go down that route. Believe it or not, Bobak's travel jacket, not margin-wise but spend-wise, was in that position before he hired us, and he raised nearly $10 million. He didn't know. A guy that's the fourth most popular on all of Kickstarter did not have that number right. Let's check out another example. The one at the bottom. Same thing. I haven't changed one item there. All I've done is got the cost of goods sold down to $20. And now look, same sort of scenario, but with marketing, you add another $30,000 to your bottom line. Before you do anything else, before you create this crazy, amazing idea, figure out if you can get it made cheaply, or figure out if you can get it made and then sell it for a lot more than you're getting it made for. Otherwise, you don't have a business. I talked to a client just 2 days ago, and here's what they told me. We got this product on Kickstarter. We've raised $100,000 and we've netted $2,000. I said, why are you running a business? You've spent $98,000 and you've made $2,000? You might as well get out of that and just go get a normal job. It's going to be way too much work, and you still have to do all the fulfilling. You know how much of a hassle that's going to be for 1,000 people? Know thy margins. Number 3, set your LVG. This is a term we came up with, and we're calling it the least viable goal. So on Kickstarter, before you even begin, and on Indiegogo as well, I'm just going to say Kickstarter, but it means crowdfunding from here on out. On Kickstarter, before you even begin a campaign, you set your goal. So you can set it for 10,000, 20,000, 100,000. What I suggest to everybody I run marketing with, and I'll give you some examples of why you do this, set it as low as you possibly can while still being able to manufacture and produce what you're creating. If you do that, you have the greatest chance for success, because Kickstarter is an anomaly in this way. Kickstarter, even though you put it out there, you put this great idea out there, you follow the ubiquity plus tech plus amazing storyline plus great product equals amazing success, you follow all that, surprisingly the crowd doesn't get behind you until they've seen that it's successful. So it's very paradoxical in that sense. So if you set the goal low, they see, wow, there's a lot of people behind us, this is successful. I better start backing, and then you get that snowball effect. Great examples right here, and these are very similar products. This one is our client, James Olander from Colorado. He set a goal for $475,000. The reason it sticks out to me is because it's still the highest goal I ever remember. Literally with just a few days left in his campaign, and we worked with him almost throughout his whole campaign, but with a few days left of his campaign, probably a week or so, he still hadn't reached his goal. And so it gets very worrisome when you've got $350,000 or something on the line that's been raised, but you've got a goal of $475,000, that you're not going to keep that $350,000 if you don't get it funded. Additionally, even though $350,000 is an amazing fundraise for 60 days, people don't think it is because it doesn't look like it was funded. Compare that to, and contrast that to Perch, the client we're working with right now. They set a goal for $20,000, and we raised $100,000 in about 26 hours. And so now everybody's like, wow, this is so good, this is so great. They're probably going to raise a lot more, and they're not going to have the stress of trying to figure out how to get that extra $100,000 with the last days left. Granted, this guy had to have a goal that high, because why? It goes back to know thy margins and his prototyping and all of his costs. His product was extremely expensive to make. Perch looked at this example, and they emulated success and created Perch in response to what they saw with that laptop stand, the Roost. Very important principle. LVG. Number 4, tell a great story. You can have the best product in the world, but everybody's got a great product. There's so many good things out there. It's 2015. The internet's powerful. There's so many things that attract your attention every day on Facebook. You can scroll through your feed and see all kinds of amazing things. How do you reach everybody? You got to come up with a great story. Here's an advertisement that we ran for one of the most successful watch campaigns in Kickstarter history. It was so successful that we attracted all kinds of attention, both negative and good attention. This was Lunaware watches. This went absolutely viral to the extent that I've never seen. Even though it didn't raise the $10 million, it was on track to raise about $3 million on Kickstarter. Even though it didn't raise the 10 million, the amount of people it was reaching was insane. This was like blowing up. Why did it blow up? It was an awesome watch. So it had it was made of bamboo, so it looked really cool. And then we came up with this pitch for the story. No wonder these watches are so popular. Pointed out a few things, made it obscure enough so that people might want to click. Pointed out the grandpa. The red arrows don't necessarily mean anything, but they invoke curiosity, which makes people want to click it. This 73-year-old watchmaker launched a Kickstarter. His newest watch is awesome. You have to see this. Makes you want to see what's going on and what's happening. We also tweaked that a little bit. We said, 73-year-old watchmaker passes on his legacy to grandson. Read all about it. See the storyline behind that? What can you come up with as a story that differentiates your product from everything else out there on the market? Here's an example of a product, and he's actually in the audience tonight. He launched a water bottle campaign, and he had such a great story. His story was, and he to his credit, he couldn't actually use the story anymore because of some certain situations with his business partner where he owned more of the company now. And his story was, while he was studying, he'd get these massive headaches, and he'd always forget to drink water. Does that happen to you? It happens to me all the time. I always forget to drink water. And then I'm like, oh, I should have drank water today. It's a good thing. Drink water. But you don't do it. Well, the angle that he took was more drink water while you're playing sports or being active. But I play indoor soccer. Every time I play indoor soccer, I remember to drink tons of water because I'm just thirsty. It's natural. And so the story didn't resonate with how the company was actually born, and I think that created a little bit of discongruence with the people that wanted to back this project that ultimately didn't lead to success. So your story has got to be something real. It's got to be the reason why you actually created it. He changed the story from why it really happened to something that was not necessarily what people wanted. Show, don't tell. This one's huge. A lot of people, when they have this great idea, they want to write all about it, list out paragraphs and all kinds of things. You have to be succinct. You have to be brief. If you have a big, elaborate product, you've got to break it down and quantify it and categorize it. Great example is the travel jacket. If you'll go to his Kickstarter campaign, BAUBAX, I would emulate success as much as possible on his campaign. He had 15 features for his travel jacket, and each of those 15 features was broken down like this. And some of these are like GIFs, moving images and things. Really cool, and it attracted a lot of attention. This is all the text that he would have, and every one of these were images. So he'd say eye mask, and then look how he's showing the product in action. You can see someone sleeping on the bus or on the subway with the eye mask, cozy drink pocket. Oh, I could see myself using that. Wow, you can even drink it with the Coke can open? Gloves. Look at how the gloves are built in. You're sitting there on the plane. An iPad pocket. Do you see how he's showing the product in action? So he's featuring his benefits. Number 6, have multiple pledge levels. This one's interesting. We've ran some campaigns and very similar campaigns. And what we've found is you can make a lot of money if you can figure out how to get more money out of the people that are backing your project. Instead of trying to keep reaching thousands more, if you have 1,000 backers, how do you convince them all to buy another one? Better Back, Catherine Krug did this really, really well. She broke it down. She created this beautiful looking little infographic. We created it. And notice how we broke things down. So we called it early backs, kind of playing off, because her Better Back thing is a device you can use that helps you have good posture while you're sitting and typing all day or at a desk. It's a really cool invention. Again, it goes with that ubiquity thing. It's niche enough that any desk worker wants it, but it's broad enough that it can appeal to the masses. And then it has that techie cool element to it because I'd never heard of something like that before. And you hadn't either. And if you're a desk worker, you're probably, no, that'd be really great. I probably need to fix my posture. If you saw me typing those days, it's the perfect product for somebody like me. So we broke it down. We called it early backs, and we did $49. Kickstarter back, $75. And then estimated retail, $99. Do you see how we're creating the scarcity and urgency behind that pricing structure? People immediately want to back it now because they're like, oh, I'm going to have to pay $100 when it comes time for retail. And heck, when this early bird level runs out, on Kickstarter you can set your levels such that they expire after 100 people, 200 people. In her case, she had them at 5,000 people. And she just keep incrementally raising them, so there always was only like 5 left. And she raised it until it hit 5,000, and then she created another level at the $49 price point and called it second shipment. And by doing that, you created the urgency and the scarcity to take action right then and there, while showing that it's going to cost you 75 bucks if you don't back it right now. And if you wait even longer, it's 99 bucks. And then, obviously, be true to your marketing. Now, if you go to her website, it costs you 99 bucks to buy it. And so it played out really, really well. Another good example, Bobak's travel jacket. What did he do? He started raising tons of money, and so he'd create a stretch goal every time he hit a certain threshold. And by creating these stretch goals, he came up with the sweatshirt, the windbreaker, the bomber, the blazer. On average, on his campaign, the average person bought 5. And so $500 instead of $125 from every person. At the end of his campaign, we sent out an upsell message to his thousands of backers that said, hey, there's 48 hours left. I know you bought X. We're giving you a special deal if you buy X and X and X. And we had thousands more people take advantage of that with a simple email with some copy that we use. That's a template that works every single time. Pretty cool. Another good example, Magbelt. Magbelt was a company that was able to convince people to buy tons of their belts. Simultaneous to Magbelt, we worked with a belt company called Undone Collective. Undone Collective never was able to get anybody to back more than one of their belts. If you compare their 2 Kickstarter pages, without going into too much detail, you can kind of see why that is. Magbelt was able to convince people why they would want all of these different varieties, whereas Undone was unable to do that. Figure out how to get people to buy more of your product, differentiate your product enough, while still keeping in mind that it's going to cost you more for every new color you create, every new jacket you create, every new sweatshirt you create, every design, every new pair of shoes you create. Keep that in mind, but you definitely want to take advantage of the time you have on Kickstarter, because the conversion rate, the money you make, is way better than it will ever be. You'll find out what real business is about as soon as your Kickstarter campaign ends. Time your launch. This is another really good one. Does anybody know the story of Coolest Cooler? Oh, cool. Coolest Cooler, a campaign that raised over $10 million, actually failed the first time around. And if you Google it, you'll see their failed campaign. Failure to them was $123,000, but they set that goal at like $200,000. And so they hit $123,000. They didn't get any of that because they didn't get to that $200,000 threshold. They launched in the winter. Does anybody want to go beaching and partying and drinking in the winter? No, right? Granted, they still haven't shipped this thing. They just barely started shipping, but it's the mindset that matters. People are like, oh, I could picture myself doing it. In the winter, you cannot picture yourself chilling with the Coolest Cooler. You'd rather have a hot cup of hot chocolate or something, right? So what did he do? Literally with no other marketing other than switching out the date 4 or 5 months later, he launched right at the beginning of summer. And the rest is history. He's one of the most funded campaigns in Kickstarter history. Another example, Hydrate Me Smart Water Bottle. These campaigns are very, very similar. Very good products. In fact, the bottom one's probably even better. Hydrate Me was first to market, and at the same time, they tried to run their campaign, and it wasn't nearly as successful. So sometimes, you have to space it out. Let's see if I have an example of that. Here's another one. Bobak travel jacket to this little travel jacket. It looks like a luggage, but it's actually a travel jacket. They tried to launch at the same time. They tried to piggyback on Bobak's success, but you've got to space it. We've done that really good with luggage. We've raised over $4 million for luggage campaigns, but we never launched the luggage at the same time. With the luggage campaigns, with Trunkster, we launched, and then we launched Barracuda about 7 months later. And then from Barracuda, we did Space Case about 4 months later. And so we spaced it out enough such that they're like, oh, that's a different looking luggage. Yes, it's another smart luggage, but I can see how that's different enough. And then you launch. So you've got to keep an eye on the market. Always first to market is always going to be best, obviously. No one is going to be able to do another Coolest Cooler. But they might be able to differentiate enough now that time has passed such that they can still have moderately good success, just like these campaigns have had. Number 8, market your product. This one involves a lot of detail, and this is where Funded Today kind of specializes. But very briefly, this is my approach. And these images, so we're going to go here. We're going to kind of do it like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pre-launch, launch, post-launch, okay? Pre-launch. Just like if you're an insurance salesman, just like if you're going to be a financial advisor, friends and family are still very important. The number I found on Kickstarter, if you want to write it down, is 250. Before you even launch, you have to have 250 people lined up that are going to back your product, put in money within that first 10 to 12 hours. By doing so, you get very popular on the platform. And by getting very popular on the platform, you reach the organic masses of millions that might catapult your product to greater success. How do you go about asking friends and family if it's a good invention? Let's say this was my invention. I would come up to you and I'd say, hey, this is my invention, this is my prototype, look at what it does. Changes my slides back and forth. How cool is that, right? It's 20 bucks. Would you give me 20 bucks for this? Probably not, really. She won't do it, see? So it's probably not a good product. And the key is to get the money right then and there. You can't, because your friends and family are going to be nice to you. Oh, that's awesome, that's such a great idea, you've got the most amazing thing ever. You can't trust that. Oh, do you think I have a great idea? Pull out your checkbook, it's 20 bucks. You have to be able to do that, and that gives you great chance of validating your product before you can put it on Kickstarter, because your friends and family won't give you money for it. Guarantee the masses won't. All right? That's very important. That's what you should do pre-launch. If you're not, and that requires work. You can't be like, yeah, I asked a bunch of people, I messaged everybody on Facebook. You need to get a spreadsheet out, and you need to write down their name, email, phone number, what they said, did they commit, did you get the money already? Be detailed. Be analytical about it, and you'll have great success, and you'll be more committed to your product as well. Number 2, landing page. Set up a landing page. Anybody know what a landing page is? A landing page is a place where you can talk about this product that's going to come about. And this is like pre-Kickstarter, and you can say, put in your email here, and as soon as it launches, you'll be the first to know, and you'll get those early bird pricings that we showed you on the Better Bet campaign. Now you get all these people interested that have given you their name and email, that the moment you push launch, you can message them, and you can ask them to back your product. Additionally, on this email marketing stage side of things, you can reach out to people on Kickstarter, and you can ask them that have similar ideas to you, but maybe you're not a direct competitor, because Kickstarter is a very collaborative community. You could say, hey, I saw you raised $500,000 for your campaign, and you have 20,000 backers. Would it be okay if I looked at the demographic data of your backers, if I promised never to email them, never to sell, never to do anything weird, if I just used that to gather data and intelligence on what I'm planning on doing for my campaign? If you were able to get an email list that was very similar, that someone who had a successful campaign did, there's something in Facebook called custom audiences. And with Facebook custom audiences, you can upload that list of 20,000, and it'll tell you more people that are interested, like those 20,000, in those particular sorts of ideas. And then you can run advertisements, like you saw with that Lunaware ad, 73-year-old watchmaker, to those people, and have extremely good conversion rates. Very important to get a good email list. Now your product launches. You want to embargo press. Embargo press means you need to get the word out about your product before you launch. Try to get a big publication, TechCrunch, Gizmag, CNET, Huffington Post, Digital Trends, and Mashable. We try to always get one of those to post about our product before we launch. By doing so, you'll get that huge spike at the first, which can also help to mitigate if you're not able to get those 250 in stage 1. If you do that, you'll also get exposure, and sometimes if you get exposure, it happens like Travel Jacket, where one person writes about it, and 5,000 other publications write about it, and then you see massive success. If you can't embargo press, keep trying. I wouldn't launch until you have somebody committed to write about it, because if you can't convince anybody to write about your product, chances are it's not as good as you think. Mid-campaign, you can do more press. I like to do press in 3 or 4 bursts. Pre-launch, like I just told you there, to embargo press and talk about the idea. As soon as I hit my first goal, we just rate, like for example, with Perch, $100,000 in 26 hours. Can you believe it? That was the headline that attracted press. Press is just bloggers. That's what I mean by press. It's getting the Standard Examiner to write about you, Salt Lake Tribune, KSL, but then thinking bigger than that. Start locally, expand broad nationally. By doing that, and coming up with headlines and pitches throughout the process, you can do really, really well. Okay, now you announce a new stretch goal. We've raised 100 grand. Now we've got a new stretch goal of 200 grand. Oh, we just hit $1 million. Oh, we just became the most funded X. Oh, we just became this. We just became that. Stories. Do you see how stories is kind of becoming a recurring theme here? How can you continue to tell stories that keeps your product new and fresh throughout the 30 to 60 days that your campaign length goes? Simultaneous to landing press, you want to start engaging with media. Paid media is what I recommend, and we spend about $500,000 a month on things like Twitter, Pinterest, Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, Dig, paying publications, KickTrack. I'm just shouting off a few here, but spend money where you make money. Everybody says, well, where should I go? Wherever you're making money. It goes back to that margins and ROI thing again. If I spend $1 and I make 10 and it costs me $20 to make my product, figure out what it is and say, oh yeah, I can spend a lot more in that channel. Or oh no, I've got to tweak something. Or I've got to switch this here. And based upon all of those sorts of conversations you have yourself and looking at your spreadsheets, spend accordingly. The reason I actually got into Funded Today was because of paid media. I had a company that reached out to me when I'd raised that $50,000 for the roof's work and said, hey, for $200, we'll run some paid media for you. And I reached out to Thomas and I said, Thomas, is that a good idea? And Thomas was like, what? Why would you spend $200? What if you spend $200 and it raises $5,000? Aren't you going to want to go spend more? Why would they just not keep spending as much as possible? And I was like, yeah, that's a really good question. I don't know why I didn't think of that myself. I feel like an idiot in hindsight, but maybe you'd be in the same situation. You should spend as much money as possible. You should spend millions of dollars if it converts that well, and reach every single person you can. Paid media. Finally, post Kickstarter. If you're very successful with your launch and you have the sort of success that Bobak's travel jacket had, he's already made another $1 million in the week that it's been over. Why? Because he transitioned. He turned his Kickstarter page into a landing page and repositioned all the people that were still coming there, wondering what happened to this product and why it's over, and he sent them over to Indiegogo, to his website. And he's raising tons more money now simply by playing off of the residual positive externalities of a successful campaign launch. We recommend Shopify as the shopping cart provider for that sort of a thing. Or you can switch over to Indiegogo, which you notice I haven't mentioned Indiegogo that much because Kickstarter is far superior in every way. But you can switch over to Indiegogo, and they love this, after you've raised a lot of money on Kickstarter, and go in demand. In demand is where you just keep raising money, and it's all done for you. So you don't have to go through the hassle of setting up a merchant account, going through PayPal, things like that. Really cool. All right, number 9. This is Nike's model, but it's very important. We have so many people that don't just do it. I told you all these great things. Who's going to actually go in 30 days from now and have a Kickstarter campaign up? Chances are probably nobody. And it's the same way when you're running your campaign. Just go out and do it. If you message a blogger and they do not get back to you, you know what I do? What do I do, John? I annoy the heck out of them, right? I get to the point where they're like, stop freaking emailing me, or they write about me. And you should be the same. If you are not that passionate in your product, you shouldn't be an entrepreneur. You should not be ashamed to ask people to write about you. You should not be ashamed to ask people for favors. You should be passionate, and you should not give up. Hey, I had a guy just a couple days ago. Hey, I don't want to annoy people, though. I feel like I've messaged them like a couple times, and there's like 30 days left on my campaign. I'm like, well, who's written about you? Hell, nobody. Well, then email them all again and ask why they haven't written about you. I don't want to come across as rude. Trust me, man. Like, that's the sort of logic that you'll probably have in your mind too, but get rid of it. It's wrong. You have to actually be passionate and believe in your product, because if you aren't passionate and believe in your product, no one else will be either. So just do it. Stay active, stay consistent. When you're not getting results, as long as you follow the formula that I've kind of outlined today, chances are it's just because you haven't put in enough work yet to see those dividends. Fail fast. There's some times where you're actually going to fail, despite everything you did here. And this is what I love so much about what we do, is because we have something where we call it product validation. Like I said, we have about 1,000 campaigns come across our desk every single month. A lot of them aren't very good, because they haven't followed what we taught here. But the good part is, we can help them fail fast. By failing fast, they don't pursue these ideas for years and years. We can figure out if an idea is good or bad within like 14 days, sometimes even quicker. Sometimes within just 7 days, I can tell you whether an idea is worth millions or whether you should just get away from it. And how can I do that? Well, crowdfunding provides the perfect data validation and market validation. This is like an opportunity of a lifetime here, because you are literally reaching qualified people that are putting in their money for an idea that may or may not ever even come to fruition. If those people will give you money, just imagine how many people are going to give you money in the long term. Validate your product quickly, and if it doesn't work on crowdfunding, either do what Cool as Cooler did and realize there might have been some different things happening, so they tried launching at a different time of year, or get out of it. Or pivot or tweak your idea a little bit based upon what people told you on your campaign. Maybe your price was just too high. Maybe your margins were too high and you had to charge way more for your price. Maybe you launched it at the wrong time of the year. Maybe you had a completely wrong color. You might learn some of these little things, and if you fail fast, it didn't really cost you anything. All it cost you was the time and effort it took you to put together a really nice video and do a little bit of marketing for a few days. If it doesn't work, just cancel your project. No harm, no foul. Last one, hire Funded Today. No, just kidding. So there's some resources for the campaign. I'm here to take any questions for a few minutes, and hope you enjoyed it. Hope you guys learned a lot. Any questions?
I'll just ask a basic
All right.
question. So if you don't meet your goal, I mean, all the people that put money in, they get that money back. So
Yep, on Kickstarter, your credit card is not charged until the last second of the campaign. And if the campaign never met its funding goal, you wouldn't be charged. Now, Indiegogo actually has something called flex funding. There you go, perfect. Flexible funding. And on flexible funding, you actually get all the money no matter what. I don't like that though, because here's the deal. What if you only raised like $2,000 and you legitimately needed 10 grand to make this idea happen? Now you've screwed over all these people that gave you money, because you're probably never going to actually be able to develop your product unless you figure out how to get $8,000 more dollars. So for that reason, I don't like flexible funding. I do like in-demand funding though, where you've already raised tons of money, and then you transition your project to Indiegogo, and now you raise tons more money. Good question. Any questions? Fair game. Fire away. Yeah. Great question. No. Yeah. For us, we've found a lot of success, and that's why I focused my presentation on that, because those are where the big numbers are at. I've raised $20,000 for books. 20,000 might sound amazing to you guys, and it was to this person. But to us, it's like, we do that every second. So for us, it's not a good thing to raise. But if 20,000 is your goal, following these same principles, you can take any idea and raise $10,000, $20,000 easily. But for the big money, at least as far as I've seen, with the exception being games. If you have some board game idea or some role-playing game, those also have $1 million value to them. And charitable projects are also a little tougher too. At least on Kickstarter. We don't work with that a lot. Now, if you want to do charity, do it like Smart Water does. Create good water, but then give a piece of it. See how you've got a great product that stands alone, and now you've added a charitable element to it. But if you're just trying to do, we had a product on Indiegogo called Dogs of Nepal. Dogs of Nepal was this product, and the guy wanted to save the dogs of Nepal. He was a Nepalese man, because the police were shooting them because they were biting everybody. And I was like, I love animals and stuff, but I was like, well, these dogs seem rabid and crazy. Why would you not shoot them? And that's pretty much what the masses thought too. So tried charity, but the product didn't stand alone, so the charity didn't work. Any other questions? Yeah.
So how do you make money with your company? Do you take a portion of what is funded, or do you just charge them a rate? Or?
Yep, that's exactly right. Earlier in the presentation, that's what got us into Funded Today. I had a company where I used to do a rate, and I wouldn't do Kickstarter campaigns. I just kind of billed like an attorney or an accountant, where I charge an hourly fee, and however many hours I put on it, that's what they got billed. They said, hey, how about we don't pay anything, and you prove to me you're actually good at what you do, and we'll give you a percentage of it. I said, all right, fair game, let's do it. And that's worked out so well, everybody loves the pitch. We raise you money, or you pay us nothing. We take a percentage of all the money raised. And then it puts us on the line, because if we don't raise you money, we don't make anything. Now, for our validation, we have products that we don't necessarily believe in, that aren't doing well, and they come to us and like, please help us save the day. We charge an upfront fee of $2,500 for those campaigns. And sometimes we're wrong. We've been wrong, probably, we're right most of the time. But sometimes people are like, I believe in this idea so much, they're so passionate about it. Please, I know if you guys just do it, it's gonna work. And Wilcox Boots, we raised them $161,000. He paid an upfront fee. In fact, even with Billback's travel jacket, believe it or not, he paid an upfront fee. Because he had spent so much money on his own, he'd spent about $100,000, and he'd only raised $100,000. So simply because of that, we thought, oh wow, if he's converting that terribly, maybe we're gonna convert terribly. So we charged him an upfront fee. We ended up being able to convert 12 times better than him, so we made a lot of money. But because of everything he had, because he tried to do so much on his own and failed, we didn't believe in it either. We were like, well, if he can't get it to work, maybe we're gonna struggle. And so we charged him an upfront fee, believe it or not. So it just depends, but if a project is really successful, what I like to see when people come and hire us is a project that's raised a lot of money and now they're dead. So it's like, oh, they must have done really well. They've got all the other stages right. They just didn't sustain the marketing. Let's see if we can get it back. And we do really well with campaigns like that. Yeah. Get all your questions out here. It's fine.
In the no thy margin, what's the percentage you should build in if you want to go with a company like yours to help you with that?
I like to just say get as big as you possibly can, but our rates vary depending on the success of the project and depending on how well you're doing, between 25 and 35%. So that's the numbers I used actually on that slide too. I just called it marketing, but that could have said Hunt Funded Today there just as easily. If you want to check out that slide. So see where it says marketing costs? I just set those at 35% for both of those. And you can see how the top company had no chance of affording to even spend on their product, regardless if they did it on their own or if they hired funded today. Yeah.
Are you guys making the videos for the media, or do you hire someone else to take the pictures, write the headlines, do all that?
We originally thought we'd get into that, and we do to some extent if people really want us to, because we know how to do it right. In fact, that's a great question, and maybe I'll answer that one next, but short answer, I guess, is no. Long answer, depending on what you have, yes. Because we do have some people we recommend, though. But for us, we make a lot more money focusing on what we're really good at. Versus, like, for example, I could be like, oh, it's $5,000 for a video and $2,500 for us to write copy. $7,500. It sounds good, but the amount of time it's going to take me to do that, it'd be better off having you figure out how to do it. Come to me when you're ready, raise a little bit of money, exhaust that audience, then hire me. Then I'm going to make you tons more money. It's a lot easier for us to do. So originally we kind of thought we'd go down that route, but now we're more outsourcing to a third party. Now, in terms of making a good video, I'll just answer that question too. Emulate success. If you have an idea for something that's a little different out there, but, and again, I'm all about not reinventing the wheel. Unless you have something really amazing, because you don't know if it's going to be successful. How much, if you've seen wallets on Kickstarter, look at how many people invent wallets on Kickstarter and raise hundreds of thousands of dollars. They're looking at a successful thing and they're like, oh, I wish my wallet had this stuff. And so they add this little element, add this little tweak to it, and then they raise $100,000. That's what I'm all about doing. So if you had a wallet idea, go on Kickstarter, search for wallets. Kickstarter has all kinds of great data, and I'll go back to that, but on their stats page. But they also have a way where you can click on Discover and then sort by most popular, most funded, most money raised. And with most money raised, you can look at, and you can type in wallet, you can see 10 campaigns that raise the most money that are wallets, and you can look at their videos. And you can say, I like to just break out a spreadsheet again, and I say, from 0 to 5 seconds, here's what they said. From 6 seconds to 12 seconds. From 12 seconds to 20 seconds. And I break it all the way down to the 2 or 3 minute length that I recommend for videos, and then I put together my video accordingly. Because that way I'm already starting with something that everybody else seemed to resonate with, and it gives me a really good script for my video. Yeah?
Do you know the percentage of companies that you guys help that continue to have success after they've done this Kickstarter?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think of Basics Wallet. Basics Wallet started out, they hired us when they'd raised about $6,000, and they're like, we think we're going to raise $15,000 on our own. And I said, oh, that's great. And $171,000 later, after they hired us, they had a legit company. And now they're raising about $180,000 a month just on their website. Since then, they have raised 4 Kickstarter campaigns, including Perch, their newest one that they've already done $140,000 for, I believe. Basics Notebook, Basics Wallet, Perch, and Technique, a camera bag. And they're combining all of these under the Basics umbrella and having really good success. Trunkster, the luggage campaign, they're actually going to a private island with Richard Branson and Tim Ferriss because of their success. They're the most successful company in Shopify history for terms of 8-month growth from startup to like a more mature company. I don't follow all my Kickstarter campaigns, of course, because we're pretty big for that, but a lot of them come back to me with 2.0, so that means they're still in business. Yeah, it's a good question though. But again, with Basics, they were actually struggling, believe it or not. And Thomas Alva, who isn't here tonight, he spent some time with them, and we got a testimonial back from John Richards, one of the co-founders, and he said, the 1 hour I spent with Thomas literally saved my company. So that was pretty cool, because apparently he was really struggling with trying to figure out how to generate online sales, and now he's extremely successful, multi-millionaire. So, yeah.
You mentioned Roosport at the beginning. Was that one of the first companies that either you would work with or your company?
Yeah, it was for crowdfunding. It was one of the first ones we did.
Did they do their own video?
We made their video, actually. It's one of the one videos we made, because again, that was toward the beginning of our company, and we were kind of involved in that at that point.
I've just seen it. I'm familiar.
Oh, yeah.
And I know the Brundages. They've actually me several years ago.
Oh, nice. Yeah, we made their video. That's us completely. We've made almost their entire website. Almost everything you see. Roosport was done by one of my companies. Not actually even funded today, because at the time, that was when I was still running my consulting firm. Yep. But we've done everything. Roosport is literally 100% funded today. And Agile Holding Group. Yep. Although they're really successful at going to expos and booths and things, they travel around the world and do marathons and different things, and have found really good success there. There's a question over here? Yeah.
On set your LVG, so why is it better to set goal low to start?
Yeah, it's that whole paradox thing. You obviously got to set your goal high enough so that you have enough money to get your project funded. Factor in all your marketing costs and everything, and set it at that number. but go as low as you possibly can, because Kickstarter doesn't really recognize success until you're successful. So even if you've got the most amazing idea ever, until you've proven that it's successful by reaching that funding goal, only then will the crowds be like, oh, okay, there's a lot of people behind this idea. I better back it. You see what I mean? It's a paradox. Seems like it can't be true, but it is. Like, oh, I put this product on crowdfunding, everybody's gonna love it. Why don't they love it? Oh, now it's funded. Oh, everybody loves it, right? Success breeds more success. Huh?
So when you started your consulting initially by yourself, when you started this, you said you brought on a partner.
Yeah, huh?
Can you talk about that, then how many people do you have with you now?
Yeah, our company.
Do you see value in adding other people for different skills and abilities, or?
Yeah, we've done a really good job of scaling our company, I think. Because of the other companies that I built in the past, I kind of learned from my mistakes. So I built this company entirely based upon incentivization and commissions. Every single person in my company today is still an independent contractor. And we're about 31 now, all over the world. We have because we have to deal with clients all over the world, so we have to have people available at different time zones and different things. But every single person, with the exception of an executive secretary, client relations person who's paid a very modest salary, is on commission, which is pretty cool because I'm paying my paid media managers probably way more than any paid media manager makes in the entire world, but they're incentivized to do really well. Same with my cross collaboration manager, same with my PR team, same with really everybody. So everybody's incentivized to do well, but if they don't do well, who cares? I'll just fire you and find somebody else, you know? And we just keep going that route. So people that are willing to take the risk and take the jump have found that it can be an extremely lucrative career, but those that want to do the salary thing, I'm not a fan of for some reason, because once they hit that step, they don't have any incentivization, in my opinion, to really push the limits and see what they can do. And I think that's why we've had such amazing success, because every single person in our company wants every single campaign to raise tons of money. Everybody's goals is aligned perfectly, so we have no contradiction. I think that's an important part of building any company, is aligning your goals with those of your clients. An agency, like there's tons of PR agencies that do PR, where they try to like get bloggers and stuff, and they'll charge you like a company out of North Carolina. They're a good friend of mine, but not to badmouth them, but it's called Command Partners. They charge like $20,000 to run a Kickstarter campaign, and sometimes they only raise $20,000. So it's like, that sucks, you know? Thanks for running my campaign, I guess. It'd be much better to be incentivized to raise as much money and take a percentage of that. And you can raise way more, you can make way more than $20,000 if you just change his model around. But again, it's the risk thing. Everybody likes a salary. Everybody likes to know that they've got money coming in. Everybody likes to feel like they have an income. It's a human element. So it's hard to like break out of that mold. Even for me it was. Being an entrepreneur is a scary thing. But the rewards can be 1,000 times better if you're willing to take that risk. And the bigger the risk you take, as long as it's calculated and smart, the better the reward. Yeah.
So I don't know if you actually have a lot of part to do with this, but just, you said like getting your cost down, so, like the cost of goods and your margins down,
Yeah.
so that you can afford the marketing. How do you do that? Like, how do you get your costs down without jeopardizing the products?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm not the most expert on that, but I'm kind of like Henry Ford in the sense that he says, I've got a button on my phone and I can push it and get everybody else, and so that's what I kind of do. I can connect you to those sorts of people that can help you have a really good quality product while getting those lower margins. Most of the time, unfortunately, a lot of people will hate me for this, but I'm a big fan of capitalism, and wherever you can get it made the cheapest and the best quality is where you should go. So I like taking it overseas. I'm in Vietnam and China and Cambodia and all kinds of places, you know.
So is that just a lot of like product development, like research and development, or what materials produce the best product and stuff?
Yeah.
More so than anything.
And it's a lot of emulating success too. There's a lot of campaigns on Kickstarter, so if you were like, hey, I've got this idea, go find the idea that's similar and say, hey, how did you get your costs so low to afford this sort of marketing? Or how did you get your costs like this? And they'll usually tell you. It's a really collaborative community, like I said. So that's what I like to do, and that's what I've done, and kind of built up a network of people where now when I have something that I need to send to a client, I'm like, hey, here's who you want to talk to. And then they figure it out. And Basics is a good example. They're able to create products for so cheap, yet they're so high quality, you know? So there's ways of doing it. You just got to know the right people is probably the short answer. Knowing the right people involves the just doing it part. Go on Kickstarter, find the people, talk to them and start telling them about what you're thinking of doing. I'm not a fan of like NDAs and being all secretive and scary about it. I don't know, I've never had that issue. Just go out and do it. Go out and get the idea done, talk about it, tell people about it. No one's gonna steal your idea. Be quick to market it, you know, but talk about it, tell people about it. Chances are you'll learn some stuff that'll help you that you might not have learned if you would have been quiet about it, put it to market without ever even realizing people wanted it. Anybody else? Yeah.
One more question. Is Kickstarter still the way to go if you have a product you want to market to a very specific group of people? Because a lot of the ones that you've kind of shown generally appeal to everybody.
Yeah.
Stuff in the jackets, everybody's
Yeah.
jacket. But if you have a very specific group of people that you want to market to,
You have an example?
say like dealing with like horses or something like
Oh, okay.
that.
Nice.
Would that be able to work as well through Kickstarter? Or
Does it have a techiness about it?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you could play a really strong press angle with that sort of a thing. If it was like feeding stalls for horses or
So
something,
say
you know,
like-
you're
so-
gonna struggle, but.
Okay, so what I was thinking is like, for like people that do a little bit fair racing, stuff like that, and just keeping up with your horse's health.
Mm-hmm.
You know how they put boots on horses?
Uh-huh, yeah.
So having like it built in right there to monitor the health of your horse.
Yeah.
And what maybe they need. I don't know if that would be.
I worry about how well paid media would do there,
Yeah.
although I'd be able to target the right people for sure. But I feel a strong press angle coming along there. You could reach out to there's all kinds of articles, or there's all kinds of websites and things that talk about equestrian things, you know, and you reach out to those sorts of people and you tell them about this idea, and chances are they'll write about you because there's not a lot to write about in that particular industry, so you could create a really exciting story behind it.
Just work around the Kickstarter, just have to take like a different angle, I guess you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you've got something that would be a decent fit for Kickstarter. Would it raise millions? Probably not, but I feel like it could be a six-figure sort of thing, especially if you played the press right. And playing the press right means reaching out to those people that write about that sort of thing, coming up with that right storyline, and telling them about why they should write about it.
So then also, if you have an idea, how do you go about, because obviously I'm not going to have I don't know how to build it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So if you have an idea, how would you go about finding the right people to collaborate, to make your product, to be able to get a demo to show to people?
Okay, yeah. Is it an app? Is it an actual physical product? Because again, the answer there is find people who've done something similar and ask them. So if it was an app, I'd go on Kickstarter and I'd type in apps, and then I'd find the 10 most funded apps, and I'd start emailing them until they responded to me and say, hey, got this idea for an app, love to talk to you for a few minutes, can I give you a $10 Amazon gift card for your time or something, you know? And then, you see how I pitched it a little differently? Because these big guys get pitched a ton. Like, I get tons of emails every day, and if someone sends me an email, it's sometimes annoying. You know, it's not mean or anything, it's like, oh, I've got 1,000 emails to read today, this is gonna suck. So if you come up with an email that sticks out to them, like, oh, they'll give you a $10 Amazon gift card for your time. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you'll probably get a response. And if they don't respond, 2 days later, hey, just following up. If you still want that Amazon gift card, when can we, you know, that kind of thing. Lean startup principles. Don't spend a lot of money. Figure out how you can do it as cheaply and as efficiently as possible while getting all the people in place before you even spend $1. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks.